Continuing from where we left off, I removed this gearbox in the last episode. I want to give it a clean up and a check over. I want to remove the gearbox mount and give that a clean up. Once I have another layer of underseal around the tunnel area, I can put the gearbox and engine back in. As I am at the point where I'm going to be cleaning parts as I'm putting them on the car, I do need to get a few things like brake cleaner, thread lock, a few other bits and pieces. I will sort that and then we will continue. I now have a few bits I can get on with a few jobs. I have some brake cleaner to clean the components, I have some nylon wheels and a small set of brushes. I have some thread lock so I can put the flywheel on the motor when I put the clutch back in. I have a torque wrench for the flywheel bolts. Mr. Sheen is great for cleaning small components like this. I have longer bolts for the side windows and the bolts for the rear wing. This thing has been stood outside for a couple of years now, so it's going to take a good cleaning. I have just put on another layer of underseal in the tunnel. Once this layer has dried, there's enough protection to put the gearbox in. I have checked the casing for cracks. I'm going to clean the plugs and sensors before I reinstall the gearbox. It smells like a proper workshop in here now. I've spilt a load of gearbox oil over the bench. Before I put the engine back in, I'm going to put the clutch master cylinder and the brake master cylinder in. It's just easier to do it in this order. Once again, as I'm putting components on the car, I'm just checking for any corrosion or splits or damage. Before I can get the brake servo in, I just need to seal off the hole where the throttle cable comes through the bulkhead. Standard wheel is 11 kilos. I've gone for a 6.4 kilo lightweight flywheel, so I'm saving a good amount of weight. This will help reduce the load on the engine and allow it to rev more freely. Before I can get the clutch and engine back in, I need to get this pin out from the clutch fork. It is being very stubborn, but I'm working around it. I ended up having to put washers onto this bolt that goes into the end of the pin, essentially adding washers to pull the pin further out. There's nothing wrong with the clutch release bearing that was on the car. However, just to be safe, I'm going to put a new one on. Ideally, you want to use assembly lube to lubricate the parts in the clutch area. However, being the cost-cutting person like I am, I'm going to use moly grease. I'm just going to make sure I don't put too much on. When the grease gets hot, it might get onto the clutch. With this in mind, I will lubricate the parts that I need to, and then I'll get the clutch fork back on. Now I just need to get the excess grease off. clutch back on the engine, the next job is to get the subframe back on the car. I need to mount it without doing the bolts all the way up. This is to allow room for the engine to slide over the top of the subframe so I can align it on the spline of the gearbox. I thought the subframe would be low enough on the car to get the engine aligned, however I was wrong. So I will take the engine mounts off the bottom of the engine and then I can reassemble it once I have bolted the engine to the gearbox. I have decided just to drop the subframe. It's rare to install a clutch this way by putting the engine onto the gearbox. However, it did make sense to do it this way as I have all the space at the front now. It's a lot easier than trying to get underneath and getting the gearbox up to the engine. Next, I need to get the gearbox almost bolted up to the engine. Once I've done this, I can reinstall the subframe, I can bolt the engine to it, then I can take the straps off. I've just unbolted the slave cylinder so I can slide it back, so I can push the clutch lever to lock the release bearing into the clutch. Next I can reinstall the clutch line to the slave cylinder. That's it for another episode. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.